You know that sinking feeling, right? Your dentist tells you that you have a deep cavity. But what if I told you that's not the end of the story? What if it's actually the start of a pretty incredible biological rescue mission for your tooth? Well, today we're going to explore a procedure that does exactly that.
Okay, so what happens when a cavity gets that deep? I mean, you're probably picturing drills, maybe some discomfort, but the real issue is, well, it's a lot more delicate than that. See, as a cavity gets deeper, it's in a race, getting closer and closer to the very center of your tooth. So the real question is, what's it racing towards?
It's racing towards the living heart of your tooth, the pulp. Yeah, deep inside every tooth there's this little bundle of nerves and blood vessels. It's the living, vital core. And when decay gets too close, that core is threatened. Suddenly, the goal becomes protecting it, literally at all costs.
So here's how we're going to break down this whole journey. We'll start with the deep cavity dilemma itself. Then we'll look at the tooth-saving solution. We'll walk through the first visit, which is all about healing, and the second visit, which is for restoring the tooth. And finally, we'll see what a successful outcome looks like.
All right, let's get into it. A tooth-saving solution. So what is this brilliant fix for such a serious problem? It's a procedure called an indirect pulp cap. And honestly, it's a total game changer in dentistry, mainly because it works with your tooth's own biology, not against it.
So here's the big idea. Instead of just drilling out all the decay and, risking an exposure of that vital pulp, the dentist does something really clever. They strategically leave a super thin layer of the affected tooth structure. Then they place a special material on top of it. And this is the key. This is the magic part. That material actually empowers the tooth to heal itself from the inside out.
Okay, but is this procedure right for you or, for any deep cavity? The answer's no. It's not a silver bullet for every situation. There are some really specific conditions that have to be met for this to work. So let's take a look at what those key conditions are.
So, what's the checklist? First up, you obviously need a very deep cavity, one that's getting really close to that nerve. Second, and this one's super important, you can't have a history of those spontaneous, throbbing toothaches. You know the kind. That's usually a sign that the pulp is already too inflamed. Third, the X-ray has to look good. It needs to show that the root is healthy and there's no infection down there. And finally, this is generally a procedure for permanent teeth.
And really, this all gets to the core philosophy here. The goal is what we call vital pulp therapy. It's not just about filling a hole in a tooth, right? It's about keeping the living part of your tooth alive and well. It's all about preserving that life inside by creating the perfect environment for it to heal itself. It's a totally biological, super conservative approach that really trusts your body to do the hard work.
Now, this whole process, this journey to save your tooth, it's all broken down into 2 key visits. Yep, just 2. It's not a one-and-done kind of thing. Think of it more like a 2-act play, and it's all designed for the best possible long-term success. So here's the timeline. First, you have visit 1, where the healing begins. Then comes the amazing part. For the next 6 to 8 months, your tooth is basically rebuilding itself from the inside out. It's incredible. After that waiting period, you come back for visit 2, which is all about getting that final restoration.
All right, let's dive into that first visit, because this is where all the healing starts. The whole goal here is to lay the foundation for repair. We need to remove the immediate threat, calm everything down, and create that perfect environment for your tooth to start healing itself.
So here's what happens. First, your dentist carefully clears out most of the decay. But like we said, they stop just short of the pulp, leaving a tiny protective layer behind. Then, step 3, they apply a special material, something like calcium hydroxide or MTA, right onto that layer. And finally, to wrap things up, they seal the tooth with a good, solid temporary restoration. This keeps all the bad stuff out and lets the healing happen in peace. Now, you really have to think of that special material as a kind of biomedical bandage. It's so much more than just a filling. It's not just sitting there. It actually has a high pH, which helps fight off bacteria. But even cooler, it actively stimulates the cells inside the pulp, basically telling them, hey, wake up, time to get to work. And they do. They start building a new protective wall. Your tooth is literally rebuilding itself from the inside. Okay, so fast forward about 6 to 8 months. The healing is done, and it's time for the second visit, finishing the journey. The amazing part is, all the really hard work, that incredible repair job we just talked about, has already been done by your own body. So this visit is like the victory lap, just putting the finishing touches on a now healthy tooth. So what happens here? Well, first, the temporary filling comes off. Then, your dentist gently cleans everything out.
And here's the crucial step. They check to make sure that the tooth has successfully built that new, hard, protective layer. Once they get the green light, once everything looks solid, they seal it up with a permanent restoration. And just like that, the journey is complete.
So let's talk about the successful outcome. Why does all of this matter for your tooth? I mean, what's the big deal? Well, the answer is actually really simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. You've managed to avoid a much more invasive treatment, and you've literally saved the life of your tooth.
Think of it like a fork in the road. On one path, with the indirect pulp cap, your tooth's nerve stays alive and healthy. The tooth is vital. On the other path, without this procedure, well, the likely alternative for a cavity this deep is probably a root canal, where that vital pulp gets completely removed, or maybe even worse, losing the tooth altogether. So this is a really crucial intervention that keeps your tooth's natural vitality intact. So let's just quickly recap the key benefits, because they're huge. First, you save the living nerve of the tooth. That is so important for its long-term health. Second, it's way less invasive than the alternatives. Third, it really empowers your tooth to heal itself, which is just amazing. And finally, the result is a fully restored, totally healthy, and, this is the big one, living tooth. You know, when you think about it, this whole procedure is a fantastic example of working with the body's natural ability to heal. By understanding and really trusting our body's incredible capacity for repair, we can find these elegant, simpler, and less invasive solutions. And it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other complex problems could we solve more simply just by applying that same principle?